Shalom, shalom, family, shalom. We're about to get right into it. We are in Joshua chapter 4. It's going to be a good read. So get your swords. Turn to Joshua chapter 4. We're going to let everybody pile in. Well, not everybody. You know, it's the early bird and all that. Shout out to the brother Tazapanya. Shout out to Coffee and Milk. All praises to the Most High. I appreciate y'all for being right early. Shalom, Joshua 1446. I think out of all the teaching styles that I've done, I like doing this Bible study the most because it's more family oriented than the more intense teachings I do on Saturdays. So it's really good to see y'all considering the family environment we're trying to create. I think that says something. It definitely says something to me. Judah son. Fourth tribe. How's everybody's Sunday going? How's everybody's weekend going? I pray y'all been blessed. I know I most certainly have been. Even though in captivity it's hard to see it sometimes. It's the little things that smack you in the back of the head and remind you. Let me know how my audio's doing because we're not going to wait too much longer to get started. Let me get a 1 if everything's on point. Because with that, I'm going to just get right to it. Elder Shalom. Elder Marshall out there in Baltimore. Shout out to you, brother. Coffee and Milk say it's a 1. Elder say the audio's good. All praises. Let's not delay it any further. So last week, we read verses 1 through 3. And we went through a couple of visuals. So make sure if you wasn't here last week that you go through last week's class so that it hit the way it's supposed to. But we went through a couple of visuals pertaining to the route that the Israelites took into the land. And when they could have entered if they had faith in the Most High, and the long way they had to go because they did not have faith in the Most High. You know, we talked about how as Israelites, we like to and have always liked to do things the hard way. And by the hard way, I mean, we try to press in every other direction except for the area that the Most High tell us to just press. Put pressure here. And instead, we apply it elsewhere. I think if there's anything that we should take away from the acknowledgement of the curses and the acknowledgement that, dang, if anybody comes from this people, I must, and therefore I must keep the commandments, is that the past experiences that we read about from our forefathers, you know, they should be cautionary tales, not just tales that are legendary, where mighty works are done and where we derive our pride, but they should give us warning, and we should essentially learn so that we do not repeat those mistakes over and over. So that's where we was at last week, so that you can catch up. It's as simple as going and looking at the channel and clicking on last week's video. I'm sure you'll like the last readings we did as well. But this is Joshua chapter 4, verse 1. And it came to pass, let me go to ESV. We're going to make this real simple. When all the nations had finished passing over the Jordan, Yahweh said to Joshua, take 12 men from the people, from each tribe a man, and command them, saying, take 12 stones from here out of the midst of the Jordan, from the very place where the priest's feet stood firmly, and bring them over with you and lay them down in the place where you lodge tonight. Then Joshua called the 12 men from the people of Israel, whom he had appointed, a man from each tribe. And Joshua said to them, pass on before the ark of Yahweh, your God, into the midst of the Jordan, and take up each of you a stone upon his shoulder, according to the number of the tribes of the people of Israel, that this may be a sign among you when your children ask in time come, what do those stones mean to you? Then you should tell them with the waters that the waters of the Jordan were cut off before the ark of the covenant of the Lord. When it passed over the Jordan, the waters of the Jordan were cut off. So these stones shall be to the people of Israel a memorial forever. And the people of Israel did just as Joshua commanded, and took up 12 stones out of the midst of the Jordan, according to the number of the tribes of the people of Israel, just as the Lord told Joshua, and they carried them over with them to the place where they lodged and laid them down there. And Joshua set up 12 stones in the midst of the Jordan, in the place where the feet of the priests bearing the ark of the covenant had stood. And they are there to this day. For the priests bearing the ark stood in the midst of the Jordan until everything was finished that the Lord commanded Joshua to tell the people, according to all that Moses had commanded Joshua. And the people passed over in haste. And when all the people had finished passing over the ark of the Lord, and the priests passed over before the people, the sons of Reuben and the sons of Gad and the half-tribe Manasseh passed over armed before the people of Israel. And Moses had told them, about 40,000 ready for war passed over before the Lord for battle to the plains of Jericho. On that day, Yahweh exalted Joshua in the sight of all Israel, and they stood in awe of him, just as they had stood in awe of Moses all the days of their life. And Yahweh said to Joshua, command the priests bearing the ark of the testimony to come up out of Jordan. So Joshua commanded the priests, come up out of the Jordan. And when the priests bearing the ark of the covenant of the Lord came up from the midst of the Jordan, and the soles of the priests' feet were lifted up on dry ground, the waters of the Jordan returned to their place and overflowed all its banks as before. The people came up out of the Jordan on the 10th day of the first month, and they encamped at Gilgal on the east border of Jericho. And those 12 stones, which they had took up out of the Jordan, Joshua set up at Gilgal. And he said to the people of Israel, when your children ask their fathers in times to come, what do these stones mean? Then you shall let your children know. Israel passed over this Jordan on dry ground. For Yahweh your God dried up the waters of the Jordan for you until you passed over, as Yahweh your God did to the Red Sea, which he dried up for us until we passed over, so that all the peoples of the earth may know that the hand of the Lord is mighty, that you may fear Yahweh your God forever. Chapter 5. As soon as all the kings of the Amorites, who were beyond the Jordan to the west, and all the kings of the Canaanites, who were by the sea, heard that Yahweh had dried up the waters of the Jordan for the people of Israel until they had crossed over, their hearts melted, and there was no longer any spirit in them because of the people of Israel. I like this. It's like there's like a divide in things left behind for the past, and how the glory of the Lord precedes him and the children of Israel as they make their way to the land of our forefathers. The beauty in that is that he tells us to leave behind mementos so that we can look back and be reminded about the things that he did, and so that our children would know, kind of like us learning today, where our forefathers were, the things that they went through. You should turn it up a little bit. How's that? Hope that's a little bit better. Let me know, Taz. It's kind of like us today, looking back and, learning by the writing, of course, And then it's funny how the nations trembled without necessarily looking back at anything left behind for them. Yet the terror of the Most High was something that they feared as the Most High approached, and as the children of Israel approached. And I find that there's far too many of us that have that reverence for the Most High. Him coming, His glory, the fear of Him is not upon enough of us. And it's almost like these mementos and tokens are not standing here before us this day. And it's the same type of blindness that Hamashiach rebuked when he talked about how a wicked and adulterous generation looked for a sign when the signs were yet all around them, right in their face. Prophecies were unfolding and they couldn't see it. You know, we will tote the name of the Most High. We'll tote the name of His Son. We'll talk about whether it's Lashawan Kadash or it's the other dialects of Hebrew. We'll do all the fancy speech, but then in our daily motion, it's almost like the tokens weren't left behind, and it's almost like the fear of the Lord doesn't shake us, right? Yet these nations knew to shake during this time. And I think it's funny because we'll go out and we teach about how the Most High is going to shake the nations in the future. I'm making this emphasis on this part right here because a couple chapters later, something really stupid is going to be done by a child of Israel. And I really want that when we get there that we all examine ourselves so that we're not like the individual we're going to read about. I'm going to keep going and stop rambling. It says, at that time the Lord said to Joshua, make flint knives and circumcise the sons of Israel a second time. So Joshua made flint knives and circumcised the sons of Israel at Gibeah Heralath. And this is the reason why Joshua circumcised them. All the males of the people who came out of Egypt, all the men of war, had died in the wilderness on the way after they had come out of Egypt. Though all the people who came out had been circumcised, yet all people who were born on the way in the wilderness after they had come out of Egypt had not been circumcised. For the people of Israel walked 40 years in the wilderness until all the nation, the men of war who came out of Egypt, perished because they did not obey the voice of the Most High. Even think on this. Think about how ridiculous it would be for us that prophesy and speak on the street corners to not make it in the wilderness because we have fought the good fight to get out of Babylon. But once the war is done and once the fight is over and it's just time to obey, that we just fall down with the sand and die in the wilderness like our ancestors did. You know, I'm like, imagine how vain that is. Of course, there's a purpose for everybody, but do you want that to be you? I pray to the Most High every day. Don't bug me out. Don't send me. Don't use me as a negative example. If it's your will, I think that we all need to exercise a level of humility. Because how many brothers were mighty in righteousness mighty and righteous until the moment that it counted to where they didn't get to see the promised land. I don't want that to be any of y'all, brother or sister. It says, for the people of Israel walked 40 years in the wilderness until all the nation, the men of war who came out of Egypt, perished because they did not obey the voice of Yahweh. Yahweh swore to them that He would not let them see the land that Yahweh had sworn to their fathers to give to us, a land flowing with milk and honey. So it was their children whom He raised up in their place that Joshua circumcised. For they were uncircumcised because they have not been circumcised on the way. When the circumcising of the whole nation was finished, they remained in their places in the camp until they were healed. And Yahweh said to Joshua, today I have rolled away the reproach of Egypt from you. And so the name of that place is called Gilgal to this day. While the people of Israel were encamped at Gilgal, they kept the Passover on the 14th day of the month in the evening on the plains of Jericho. And the day of after the Passover, on that very day, they ate of the produce of the land, unleavened cakes and parched grain. And the manna ceased the day after they ate of the produce of the land, and there was no longer manna for the people of Israel, but they ate of the fruit of the land of Canaan that year. When Joshua was by Jericho, he lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, a man was standing before him with his drawn sword in his hand. And Joshua went to him and said to him, "Are you for us or for our adversaries?" And he said, "No, but I am the commander of the army of Yahweh. Now I have come." And Joshua fell on his face to the earth and worshipped and said to him, "What does my Lord say to his servant?" And the commander of Yahweh's army said to Joshua, "Take off your sandals from your feet, for the place where you are standing is holy." And Joshua did so. Chapter 6. Now Jericho was shut up inside and outside because of the people of Israel. None went out and none came in. And the Lord said to Joshua, "See, I have given Jericho into your hand, with its king and mighty men of valor. You shall march around the city, all the men of war going around the city once. Thus you shall do for 6 days. 7 priests shall bear 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark. On the 7th day you shall march around the city 7 times, and the priests shall blow the trumpets. And when they make a long blast with the ram's horn, when you hear the sound of the trumpet, then all the people shall shout with a great shout, and the wall of the city will fall down flat, and the people shall go up, every one straight before him." So Joshua, the son of Nun, called the priests and said to them, "Take up the ark of the covenant, and let 7 priests bear 7 trumpets of ram horns before the ark of the Lord." And he said to the people, "Go forward, march around the city, and let the armed men pass on before the ark of the Lord." And just as Joshua had commanded the people, 7 priests bearing the 7 trumpets of ram's horns before Yahweh went forward, blowing the trumpets, with the ark of the covenant of Yahweh following them. The armed men were walking before the priests who were blowing the trumpets, and the rear guard was walking after the ark, while the trumpets blew continually. But Joshua commanded the people, "You shall not shout or make your voice heard, neither shall any word go out of your mouth until the day I tell you to shout. Then you shall shout." And so he caused the ark of the Lord to circle the city, going about it once. And they came into the camp and spent their night in the camp. Then Joshua rose up early in the morning, and the priests took up the ark of the Lord, and 7 priests, bearing the 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark of the Lord, walked on, and they blew the trumpets continually. And the armed men were walking before them, and the rear guard was walking after the ark of Yahweh, while the trumps blew continually. And the 2nd day they marched around the city once, and returned into the camp. So did they for 6 days. On the 7th day they rose up early at dawn of day, and marched around the city in the same manner 7 times. It was only on that day that they marched around the city 7 times. They're doing it exactly the way the Most High commanded them to do. It says, "And at the 7th time, when the priests had blown the trumpets, Joshua said to the people, 'Shout, for Yahweh has given you the city, and the city and all that is within it shall be devoted to Yahweh for destruction. Only Rahab the prostitute and all who are with her in her house shall live, because she hid the messengers whom we sent. But you keep yourselves from things devoted to destruction, lest when you have devoted them, you take any of the devoted things and make the camp of Israel a thing of destruction and bring trouble upon it. But all the silver and gold and every vessel of bronze and iron are holy unto Yahweh. They shall go into the treasury of Yahweh." So the people shouted, and the trumpets were blown. As soon as the people heard the sound of the trumpet, the people shouted a great shout. and the wall fell flat, so that the people went up into the city, every man straight before him, and they captured the city. Then they devoted all the city to destruction, both men and women, young and old, oxen, sheep, and donkeys with the edge of the sword. But to the two men who had spied out the land, Joshua said, "Go into the prostitute's house and bring out from there the woman and all who belongs to her, as you swore to her." So the young men who had been spies went in and brought out Rahab and her father and mother and brothers and all who belonged to her. And they brought all her relatives and put them outside the camp of Israel. And they burned the city with fire and everything in it. Only the silver and gold and vessels of bronze and iron they put into the treasury of the house of Yahweh. But Rahab the prostitute and her father's house and all who belonged to her, Joshua saved alive. And she lived in Israel to this day, because she hid the messengers whom Joshua sent to spy out Jericho. Joshua laid an oath on them at that time, saying, Cursed before Yahweh be the man who rises up and builds this city, Jericho. At the cost of his firstborn shall he lay his foundation, and at the cost of his youngest son shall he set up its gates. So Yahweh was with Joshua, and his fame was in all the land. We're going to wrap up there, and we're going to pick up next week at chapter 7. I want you guys to consider how that when Israel did exactly what the Most High said and how they followed the pattern exactly how he said it, they had success and those walls came down, and they didn't have to throw anything. They didn't have to pull the walls down. They shouted with a great shout. We could say it was the acoustics, and we could say whatever. The point is, the Most High knew the way it was going to happen, and they did exactly what he said. Next week, we're going to read what happens when somebody gets a dumb idea to just deviate a little bit. Like, we're creative people, we're free thinkers, and all of these things. And sometimes we're just so full of our own stuff that, well, we fall susceptible to it. My prayer for brothers and sisters is that they self-examine just like I'm going to self-examine. And, I have to think about the times that I was corrected because I was trying to control things. This is a conversation that we have a lot, trying to force it. All you got to do is just trust in the Lord, and it's most times easier said than done, especially when you're raised in a place where you're taught, I know I can't be what I want to be no matter what anybody says. And, that being said, we're done with the read. I'm going to give 30 seconds for questions. Brother Taz says, you're expressing why this is my favorite book. Shout out to the brother Joshua, man. Shout out to the brother Joshua. Be ye of good courage, right? 30 seconds on the clock. All right, everybody. I see no questions. All right, everybody. I see no questions, and that's cool. You can always send serious questions to fireofgodclassroom@gmail.com. You can always support the ministry at Fire God Camp 12 via Cash App. But the best way that you can support is by liking this, sharing the link with those who it would benefit from it. And other than that, man, your presence has been enough. I appreciate y'all. Have a great week. We're here for you, like I know y'all are here for us. All praise to the Most High, and shalom.